Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, leave it in the ring.
And welcome back to another edition of Leaving the Ring Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez, with my co-host, Mr. Gabriel Montoya. Well, we got some things here to talk about on Leaving the Ring Radio. You want to call in, you certainly can. 347-215-7598. Don't forget to download the app to your iPhone or Android so you can catch up with the other shows that we have hosted on the app. Anyways, first off, there was a passing of somebody that was a major figure in boxing, a promoter and a friend to a lot of folks. Definitely was a really nice guy to me when I came on board as part of the media community, and received me with open arms. Him and his whole family, his son especially, Craig Goossen. So the passing of Dan Goossen was a big shock. Not just to myself, but to a lot of folks out there, man. I mean, this was really sudden. Dan getting cancer and finding out just a matter of days he had left, and he left this world. But he left this world leaving it with a real impact, and an impact in a lot of people's, lives, And like everybody else, Dan Goossen was not perfect, but he was definitely somebody that was always willing to sit in front of you and argue his point or listen to what you had to say. He was never really afraid to shy away from that. Definitely, if you speak to anybody, if you've been active on the social media, you've noticed a lot of folks and guys that are in the business and media and whatnot, managers and matchmakers, always mention how if you couldn't get a hold of Dan Goossen with the first call, don't worry, because he was going to return your call. And that was something he was really known for. And, another thing, too, is that he was always known. If you talked to him maybe once or twice, he was pretty good in remembering, maybe not your name, but he would remember, that what position you were at, meaning whether if you're a matchmaker, manager, even a fighter, all the way down to the little guys like myself, media. And, the one thing that he had a habit of always calling me was kid. He would say, the last time I spoke to him was in Southern California, and I had asked him if I can get a quick interview with him, and this was off of Chris Oriola on the comeback and Andre Ward and versus Arthur Abraham, and he had said to me, I always got time for you, kid. I always got time for you. And that always stuck with me, and it always stuck with a lot of the guys too, as well. Because, like I said, he not just Dan himself, but the whole family, everybody that was part of that family, were always willing and wanting to talk to you. So this was a great loss for the boxing community. It was a shocker. It was definitely a shock to me, shock to a lot of other folks that I spoke to about. And he's going to be greatly missed. And here on Leaving the Ring, we want to wish his family all the best. But like every great Titan, you may be gone, but you're never going to be forgotten. So much love to you, Dan Goossen, and thank you for all the fights and all the things you've done for the boxing world. Anyways, let's get down to it here on Leaving the Ring Radio. I believe we got my co-host, Mr. Montoya, with us. And now let's get down to boxing here. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. You had just last night the Wednesday special on ESPN. Then you had the announcement of main events. Their contract with NBC is it's ending. So Al Haymon has made a bid for it, and it looks like he got the dates locked down. $20 million, I think, is what's been reported that he outbidded. He put the bid for to get in a business relations with NBC. So that's something there in big news. Hey, fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598? You certainly can. We're going to talk about the ESPN Wednesday night fights. We're going to talk about upcoming weekend fights. And we're going to talk about, there's a lot of visiting at the Golden Boy office from their fighters that are not signed by Al Haymon. So there's something that'll scratch your head. What is that all about? Well, I'll give you my opinion, and certainly my co-host will give you your opinion. We're going to open up the phone lines in a few minutes here. Again, it's 347-215-7598. Don't forget to download the app so you can catch up with the other shows that we have hosted on the mobile app. You know, never miss out on Boxeo Tijuana Radio and the next round. But let's get on in on it. Okay, Al Haymon here. Let's rewind here a bit, Gabriel. As us Chicanos like to say, we don't say they just back up. We always say, let's rewind. Hey, rewind that real quick. Anyway, so.
With the clicker. Where's the clicker?
Right. Now, if you've been listening to Leaving the Ring for quite some time, you know about our Monday rants. You know about some of the stuff that we kind of hone on and we bring up and touch on where other folks just won't even get close to with a 16th pole. Okay, they want to stay clear from it because they want to stay in the graces with everybody. Where in our case, it really doesn't matter because it's our job to talk about things because it's something that you end up talking about at a barbecue, at a bar, at a poker game, or anywhere that you have a chance to talk to another boxing head, right? So these are subjects that some fight fans just, when I have a chance to talk to either through social media or run across, they'll ask me some questions. They're like, hey, what do you think about this old Al Haymon thing? Now, if we go back, and we're talking about a year from here, okay, we had been mentioning that there was a monopoly that Al Haymon was trying to do. And just like last week, we mentioned Oscar De La Hoya woke up, he cleaned up, and he caught on to some stuff that was going on in his company. Okay? What I've been told and what I've heard from numerous people is the plan was to sell out the company. Okay? And then the other plan was to really X out all the other networks and start to have a monopoly by having one sole channel. With the NBC deal and now the talks that it might, that the dying of Showtime, which would be Al Haymon no longer hosting fights because he's now looking at trying to get on the NBC. Well, that's the ripple. That's the start of it. Okay? Was it the way originally how they wanted to get it done? Absolutely not. When Oscar woke up and took off those shades, which you shouldn't wear shades in the club. I always thought that was really weird when I see guys do that. You know what I mean?
It depends on the shades, Dave. I used to agree with you, but now that I've been living in San Francisco for a while, it depends on the shades and the time of year, I think.
No, it's
I think Golden Gate, Gabe Montoya.
Fashion, right. It's a big fashion no, Gabriel. Notice when we went out that one night when I was down there, when I went and sat down and you kept walking around, there was a reason behind it. I'm just playing. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, all right, so let's talk about this. So Oscar wakes up and he sees what's going on, and he's like, whoa, hold up, rewind. See, that's the Chicano word that we say. Rewind, what's happening here? What am I signing, right? And he caught on to it, and guess what? He put a roadblock to the original plans. And then the domino was the effect of, like, Main Event suing. There was also, what was the other one that was suing Al Haymon? Dog. Oh, God. It was something Dog Promotions. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, Gabriel. But we have it on the website. I have to go back and look. But it was another promotional group as well that decided to sue him. Then.
Yeah. Jeez, I'd have to pull it up. I am remiss.
Yeah, I can't.
It was a company that I didn't even really realize exists. I'm
right.
To be honest and
right.
say.
And so then what happened is then Schaefer resigns, and then Floyd Mayweather puts his foot in his mouth again. I don't know. God, I'm surprised that when the guy talks that he doesn't smell like toast. But all this stuff happened. Then we had said that what's going to happen is Oscar's he's gonna end up mending that relationship with HBO. He was definitely trying to mend it with Top Ranks, which it looks like it's headed down that route. And now the relationship's back with Oscar and HBO. And then the big move, which was going to be the power move, is to get Saul Canelo Alvarez, the Mexican superstar, back to HBO. Then, through that divorce, was going to start coming down to the children. And one of those children were going to be dates. And we see that what's going on there. The second one we haven't really seen yet is fighters, because there are fighters that are signed with Haymon and Golden Boy. So we don't know the tug of war there yet. That's soon to start, believe me. I think within the new year of 2015, we're going to start seeing some tug of war, conflict of interest, just with the fighters themselves, because they're going to see right now, like I said, the mention of HBO fighters, Golden Boy fighters going to the office to speak to Golden Boy promotion is really because the renewed relationship with HBO. Here's these guys that really were kind of put in the back burner because Al Haymon and Schaefer made sure they took care of their signed fighters first. They weren't concerned about what Oscar and them were doing, kind of put them behind. So now I think this is what the movement is start filling up those dates and those cards with some guys that weren't really getting that push. So you're going to be able to see some guys we normally wouldn't see on a cable network. Now, going back with the monopoly, and me and Gabriel talked a little bit about this, and he's going to jump in on it and give his opinion just a short bit, is this is the start. You go to NBC, you start putting on these fight cards on here, and you really see you know what? Before I even get into that, Gabriel, go ahead and throw in your opinion so that I can kind of piggyback right off of that, because we talked about something really that I think needs to be mentioned. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, one, that was a Bad Dog Productions that's suing Al Haymon. That was right around the same time as Main Events, but it didn't really get as much run, and they were suing over Rances Bartholomew, rather. One of the things that Steve and I talked about this on the next round this week, Steve brought up that Al's, it's 24 dates. 4 of them are going to be prime time. One of them rumored to be after the Super Bowl. This is per Mike Coppinger of Boxing Scene, just to give attribution, who was doing an interview with Kathy Duva just a few weeks after getting kind of taken to school by Nicole Duva regarding their business practices. But I mean, this is how you learn, by asking questions. And I think Mike shook something loose, in this Haymon story. We knew a little bit about it, but we didn't know the specifics, at least according to Duva. It's just interesting where, what I've heard is that it's even going further and going to kind of looking ahead in the next 5 years, where everybody's using their cable and their computers just as one. And we're getting closer and closer to that. You see people with Chromecast, and so their laptop or their tablet is just hooked up directly into their giant big screen TV. And I think Al is getting that there's going to be kind of a new market and a new way to pay for channels and to pay for programming. And I think that's where we're headed. Ultimately, in the next 5 years, is something kind of along the lines of the UFC. This is what Steve alluded to, that he would create his own belt and his own league, essentially, with all this talent. And, if you keep paying for the talent this way, and it's your universe, and you can kind of grow the culture yourself to control it. I mean, look at the way the UFC is doing it. They're even now doing their own drug testing. Although I don't know how effective they're being at, or how correct they're getting their science, but that's we don't want to turn it into the PED hour, and I don't want to jump to conclusions like some of the other people out there already are. But in this case with Haymon, and it's interesting actually, the people that call bull on the this whole Kung Lee, Victor Conte, Vada, all that stuff, that always just have the jaundiced eye. These guys are the same guys that said Al Haymon didn't have any power just a couple of years ago, that he didn't really have much influence in boxing. So when you listen to them, just know, on the opinion scorecard, at least they're 0-1 there. I think ultimately, it's hard to say what we're going to get out of this. Oscar is really firm in his commitment. It's strange what's happening right now. You've got Al trying to monopolize the business, or at least a large section of it. and break off now even from the networks, as the interview said, and kind of cut HBO and Showtime out of the deal and go back to network TV, we could do bigger advertising dollars, presumably, and potentially a larger audience for boxing. But then you're going to have the old guard, and taught by the old guard, Oscar De La Hoya, and the old guard being Bob Arum, and the taught by being Todd DeBuff, carrying on the old tradition of fighting for dates on Showtime and HBO and kind of cultivating. Well, really, they're just going to be on HBO, and Oscar's going to hope to work at both. Oscar's looking for unity. And Al's looking for separatism and isolationism. It's kind of a strange thing. I mean, Oscar did change his tune from a few years ago, which is another interesting thing. But you know what? Unlike other people in this business, I afford people the ability to change and to learn from their mistakes, or just learn from their experiences. It doesn't always have to be mistakes.
Here's the thing that's interesting to me. Okay, and this is where it gets risky, in my opinion. Now, does Haymon have money to back up what he's trying to do? Absolutely. But that monopoly, or that way of thinking of trying to have one sole channel to host boxing, has been attempted by other sports, and they haven't been successful at it. Speaking of like WWE to the UFC. But the thing with me is what I believe is even more riskier is there's really not a name developed from Haymon, and the name that is developed is Floyd Mayweather. And to think of it, Floyd hasn't been doing great by numbers. He's been struggling as well, not in terms of what's being received in his pocket, but what are you're perceiving in the seats. That's something that's completely different. Where Golden Boy, like it or not, which we did it in the beginning, and we've had like Robert Alexander come on the show, and he said this perfect. He said they developed a great product, but they haven't took time to develop a fighter yet. Which slowly but surely it's kind of a turn. I don't know about the whole Joshua Kaladi thing. That's kind of a woo. Now, how do you go from Laura to that? But Golden Boy, in terms of building a brand, which they now have in Canelo, they absolutely, to me, are a little step ahead in the game of what direction and what fans are going to go sailing towards at the end of the day. So this is something that the Haymon Entertainment Group people, they got to start looking into and thinking about. Now, they are signing up tons of talent, but it's what they do with that talent, how they market that talent, and how they move them through the rankings and through those ropes is what's really going to count. Because if they continue to put up the fight cards they have on Showtime, which we have is just recent, it's just not going to be a fairy tale ending, in my opinion. And like any business, even though how Haymon has been in this advisor business for quite some time, being a promoter, it takes up to maybe, in my opinion, in any business, about 5 years to get off the ground. And you had told me earlier you think this has been at 2 years. Which may be rightfully so, might be true. 2 years they've been into this game, but 3 years is a lot to play with, and there's a lot of stake in 3 years to really lose what potential fans that were really kind of clinging back to the sport by having it on Showtime and HBO. But now just automatically taking it away from them and putting it on NBC or another made-up channel that they feel they can create, to me, you're going to end up losing a very good, large mass percentage of fans.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, let's say best case scenario, and you start to see some good-ass fights on NBC. All of a sudden Keith Thurman's very active, and you get to see him regularly. And what the fight becomes among the stable, who gets those, and how many fights you're going to do, triple header on NBC, who gets those, And you look at what Al's got, and the knock is he hasn't developed anybody. But I really like Errol Spence, and if they can really learn how to develop him, I mean, who's the matchmaker over there? That's kind of what I'm curious to know. Is it Golden Boy, or because they're learning, they're getting better. They certainly make action fights, but that's Errol Spence Jr. is a guy that, if that's Al's cornerstone, if that's his guy for the future, that's a pretty good guy. That's somebody that's got all the tools, he's got all the talent, he's certainly got the charm. He's a very good interview. Already understands that end of the game. So I don't know. Best case scenario, they develop Errol Spence to a wide audience. Boxing hits the mainstream again. But I think you still need all of the other trappings. You need guys. A universal drug testing program. And these guys are all getting paid. But I would like to see, if you're going to monopolize it, then there's always my criticism of boxing, that it wants to be big time, it wants to be the way it used to be, but it doesn't want all the trappings of the sports that have grown into multi-billion-dollar industries, such as the NFL or the NBA. They don't want, and granted, those guys don't have the best drug testing in the world, but they have other things that they're developing. They have retirement plans. They're slowly starting to get it. A collective bargaining agreement where you can help all the promoters and help develop talent. Everybody has the same kind of resources, or at least close to it, to develop talent, which overall helps the game. But, this wide open market, I don't think it's always necessarily a good thing. The free market. Maybe they all should be forced to work together. Because, I said this to you the other day, how do you have a business? How can you grow a business if there's 9 different people running it to their own end? You know what I mean? Like all the different promoters, all are really
too many chiefs.
Going after their own ends. That can't help the whole sport.
No.
We can only hope for good peaks and valleys at that point, and luck, and willingness of the fighters. And now that Al's entered things, he's skewed the market to a point, and Kathy Duva pointed this out, where everybody wants 6 figures for a tune-up, and maybe they're worth it. And maybe Kathy's wrong. Kathy's not exactly the biggest proponent of drug testing in the world. It's kind of like, it's not really my business, It seemed to be her attitude when she was on the show. And maybe it isn't. But I don't know. You can't worry about the Al Haymons taking over the business if you want to be all skewed like this and, fractured and divided and kind of wide open to have a 49-year-old fighter fighting without random testing. But you're going to make a lot of money off of it. I don't know. Boxing always wants its cake and eat it too.
I like cake.
So we'll see what the future brings with Al. Is it going to be another universe and the other guys are going to do their thing or what? I don't know.
This is like watching DC versus Marvel. The worlds just collide. Fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598. You certainly can. Let's patch in some fight fans before we start trailing on about other things here in boxing. Let's talk boxing here on Leaving the Ring. Let's bring on area code 860. I think that's CT. You're on live with us on Leaving the Ring. What's on your mind?
Yeah, what's up? How you doing, guys?
Good, man. What's up, brother? How you doing?
All right. Do you guys know the undercard of Canelo and Claudia?
No, I haven't received any announcement from it yet. No.
Okay. And my other question was, I'm on Instagram and I'm hearing a lot of people, giving Ray Beltran a good chance against Terrence Crawford, dealing with his style that he has. What's that? I mean, do you guys think Beltran has a good chance, or do you think Crawford's going to have, too much versatility for him? Because, Beltran's faced fighters like Hank Lundy and stuff like that before.
Though, here's the thing. This is what I like about Crawford, okay, is at one time we looked at him as this cutie kind of guy that had all the right tools, didn't look at him as a power puncher. This was the guy that can outbox you. But to me, it's really showed that pressuring him the right way, he's going to fight. Gamboa really brought that out of him. So that tells me he's got pretty much every tool in the shed sharpened for Beltran. It's really up to Beltran and how he decides to try to fight. Because if he tries to sit back and try to box a boxer, well, we know what happens in that route. But if Beltran tries to be the mauler, which we've seen him numerous times, he did it with Burns, just go at him and try to give hands, well, he's going to be in the receiving end to a guy that's going to be willing to pitch, not to, and quarterback against him. So this makes it all for a great, interesting fight. Now, do I think Beltran has a chance? I don't think so, man, to tell you the truth. I think he's going to give a hell of a run. I think he's going to be somebody that's going to have his moments, but I think the overall of Terrence Crawford's size, his boxing ability, his IQ, and even his punch, is going to be just a little bit too much for Beltran, in my opinion. I just think it's just going to be too much for him. When the adjustment comes there, Beltran is not going to know what to do. He's going to make the same mistake over and over, and Crawford's going to capitalize it. That's what I see in my book, Gabriel.
Damn, Dave, leave some pizza for me, would you? Jesus. That's my same pick. What Dave said. What Dave said, pretty much. Yeah, I'll go one further. I'll go Terrence Crawford by late KO. I think if Beltran fights true to his character, he's going to come. And I think Crawford is. We're just barely seeing below the surface. In that last fight, he showed a lot. I sort of, the storyline was that he was almost knocked out and then came back. I mean, I think he took a big shot. Kind of like, every time, like last night when Stevens would land the few times that Stevens landed a shot on Endam, everybody go crazy, like, oh my God, there it is, there's a big shot. But really, he took like one and came back. I think Crawford had so much more to give. I like his power, I like his size. I like the longevity. Beltran, I think it would take a lot to stop him. He's a durable guy. He's been in with Manny Pacquiao for many years, but he's also a guy with a lot of miles. So it's incumbent on Crawford if he wants to be a star. And right now is a perfect time to there's a void at HBO. You've got Triple G, sure, but there isn't a guy that speaks fluent English. And I mean, granted, Triple G's incredibly quotable, and everybody just loves him. I mean, he's selling out, but Crawford could fill another void, and he's a legit draw in his in his home state. So all the signs are there. I think he needs to stop Ray Beltran if he wants to be that next level guy. Maybe even get a Manny Pacquiao fight, or a Chris Algieri fight.
I like the matchup too. I got to tell you this. I like the matchup because it's not going to leave any room for anybody to say, well, after Gamboa, he avoided Beltran, which should have really been the guy that was up for that title belt. He's covering his bases. He's taken on he just got off a hard fight, and he's taken on another hard fight. Beltran is no walk in the park. This guy's a mugger at nighttime in the park you decide to walk through. So this is a good fight, man. But realistically, I think Beltran has got miles on him. He can be sometimes a bit of a one-trick pony, and I'm not meaning that in any disrespectful way, because I love Beltran. I love his style. I think he's exciting. He comes and he brings it, but when it comes to the talent department, and if you want special effects, you got to go with Crawford, and that's who I'm going with. Is Terrence?
Yeah, me too. I'm picking Crawford, and I think dealing with what we saw with Gamboa, if we wanted to see how he would do against versatility. I mean, when he was against, adversity, and we saw what he did. He knocked Gamboa out, and I think he's definitely a rising star. I think he can go up to 140 and definitely win the title up there as well.
And it's funny because I had a fight fan just yesterday ask me. He's all, I don't, who I think should be a superstar, but I'm not sure if he can get to that level is Terrence Crawford. And I said, look, if he's able to still continue to sell out the way he is in his home state, he's a superstar already in that state. He's being developed correctly. Now, taking him out of there, that's what we'll kind of find out. But it's just too early and too soon. But the way they're matchmaking him, the way they're moving him, I know myself, and I think Gabriel can agree with me on this one here, is this is the way you do it. Why move him out of there? I know people hate hometown advantages, but sometimes when it's at a point of somebody's career, you have to kind of do that. Keep them where they're selling, build that brand into this major market, and then you start shipping it out a little further away from home, and then you really see if all the strategy and the hard work you put in really is going to pay off. So I think what they're doing right now is a great way of doing things with him.
Mm-hmm. Can I say one more thing?
Go for it, brother.
Have you guys heard any opponents next for Andrade? Because I know he's calling out everybody. He's one of those guys who wants to make his shine in boxing, and nobody wants to give him a chance.
You know what? No, man. Unfortunately, I think like when we had him on, and we talked about this, we touched on this a bit, was that Andrade here's a guy that has tons of talent. is a guy that could really be a major force in that division. It's kind of showed that. He's got the height, he's got the boxing ability, he's got the charisma, definitely. He's got the personality to really get people to kind of listen to what he's got to say. He proved that by being on the show. But the thing that he kind of lacks is, promotional power. It sucks when you got a smaller promotional group like Star Boxing that don't have the power to go like, okay, this is what we're going to do next, and this is how we're going to move, and this is how far we're going to jump. They can't do that. When we talk about baby steps, dude, they're at that feat of only doing baby steps. And that's where it stands. So who's he going to face next? It's really not, I don't think it's up to them. It's who's willing to throw him a bone next. Mm-hmm. Gabriel, what do you think?
Well, I think, too, they're probably up against the wall of, once a guy gets to a title, I imagine contractually you're obligated to pay him X amount more, exponentially more than you were before, when he was just a contender. So now the problem becomes they need to get him on a network in order to pay for him because they're a smaller operation. And that's what I'm talking about with boxing. It's like, you've got a fighter. I mean, he has a great interview, so much fun to talk to, totally cool, totally willing to fight. Trains all year long is what he wants to do, and he's in the prime of life, and he's a champion. Dude can't get on TV. So
here's the guy. Here's a guy right here, Gabriel. That if he could rightfully be in injustice if he dropped his bout, and his explanation would be because this bout is preventing me from getting fights because I ain't getting paid. You know what I mean? Vice versa, what Peter Quillen did. This is a guy that could do that and get away with that.
I don't know if he could get away with it. I think it would be kind of tough for him in that he's got a rough style, and in terms of just he's a problem. I mean, I think the thing that he needs is to hold on to that belt until he can get something, but unfortunately, the problem is that they're not going to just get him off TV or do like with Triple G, with K2 did with him, and just taking him to Monte Carlo. We're just going to keep fighting him. We're not on HBO, fine. We're just going to keep fighting, and you build goodwill by everybody's watching this guy. Now look at him. You taking him to Carson, and he sells out standing room only like they've never sold like this. K2's basically going, well, we could bring him back to the Staples Center. Now we've got a whole other market. The things are, it's going to be hard for Andrade if they don't invest in him. If they're waiting around, he's going to die on the vine. So waiting around for TV. It's unfortunate,
Certainly is.
That's boxing.
CC, thanks for calling in, brother. We're going to put you back on hold.
Thank you.
Here you go. Fight fans, you want to call in 347-215-7598. You certainly can. Let's go open up the phone lines here. Let's go with area code 714. You're on live right now and leaving the ring. What's on your mind?
What's up, guys?
What's up, brother? Who are we talking to?
This is Joe from the Bay Area. Great show so far, man. Great show. Hey,
Appreciate
December, beginning of December, we're going to have two good cards. I think, that Canelo Clottey. And then the following week, Tim Bradley with Chavez. Do you guys know about that undercard? Top Rank supposedly wants to make it a triple header for that night.
I've just heard about it. I haven't heard if they've brought up any names in terms of who's going to be as that third name. I think the more or less, if anybody would have known and threw it out there, would have been Steve Kim. But right now, I haven't heard anything back from that. How about you, Gabriel?
Yeah, I'm retired, so no, I haven't heard of anything just yet. And when I was active, I didn't return my calls all the time. So check in maybe next Monday, and we'll have announced something. There's no shame in my game, Dave. I'm on hiatus. I'm chilling.
Yeah, I noticed that, man, big time. But you almost forgot that you're on hiatus just the other day when I told you, and you were like, I'm going to look into that. I said, no, you can't do that. Yeah, but Joe, you know what? That is a really good card. I like the Timothy Bradley and Chavez fight card. Hopefully that fight doesn't get too messy, and they have the right ref. They have the right ref for that fight. But Timothy Bradley, in my opinion, he's going to be in there really rough with a rough customer in Chavez. Chavez throws some really awkward shots. But if Timothy Bradley was able to get past Arbergu, he should be able to get past Chavez. What do you think, Gabriel?
I think this could be an ugly fight. It could be a real ugly fight, But I think Tim's shown that he can be gotten to by a boxer puncher. So it's going to be incumbent on Chavez to develop coming underneath. Really working uppercuts, taking a step back and catching Tim, blinding him maybe with a jab to get him to go down, and then boom, come up with the uppercut and really work that game. Slide around to the side, get a body shot in around on Tim. It's an intriguing fight. I haven't really made a pick in it. I lean towards Tim. I like his versatility. I like his skill, and his ability to smother your offense. And Chavez is a little more one-dimensional in that regard. But really, really good fight.
We got anything else for you, Joe?
No, I will do it. Thank you,
brother. All right, thanks for calling in, man. You know what? I got to tell you this, though, man. Talking about Timothy Bradley, we're taking on this fight with Chavez here is the only thing that kind of leaves me wondering is how Timothy Bradley's mind frame is. Coming off his second loss with a loss with Manny Pacquiao and the injuries, not a second loss, I'm sorry, just the loss of Manny Pacquiao and the injuries that he had sustained with his legs. And it's the second time around. That's what I mean. Second time around, he's having some injuries in his body, okay? His body has been kind of betraying him in some type of frame. It might be the way because the way he trains, he puts on extra pressure on himself. There's a lot of stress there, and to get himself correctly in fine-tuned fighting shape. So that being said, I want to know where his head is at. If whether or not his head's going to be in the game of being the boxer that we saw him look great against Marquez, or he tries to do exactly what he tried to do with Pobocla, which is try to fight and brawl. There's a strong possibility he may do that because he could feel a little sighted. Just the fact that fight fans have probably written him off, and he's always had that tug of war. He's had that love and hate relationship with the fight fans out there. So I'm curious about that. But like I said, I still think that if he's able to handle a very big, awkward Carlos Abagul, I think he should be able to handle a Diego Chavez. Really quick, if you haven't had a chance to check out The Hurt Business, the second episode that me and Gabriel, myself, had produced and made out there in Riverside, California, get a chance to check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. And really what it is just covering the behind the scenes, the business of boxing. We went out there and spoke to Henry Ramirez, the trainer. That's on the first episode. Then we had a chance to talk to Indian Willie, who's the cut man, and really got down and dirty with him about the cut man business, things behind there that is dislikes and things that he thinks needs to be changed, and what he does, what big part that he has in the corner on a fight night. So if you had a chance, check that out. Got a lot of great reception for the Michael Carbajal interview that we had on last week. Brian Fogg was able to touch a little bit on the case that is stemming with his brother, the ongoing thing that's going on with his brother and the grandson of Danny Carbajal out there in Arizona. He was on a fight card, I believe, this past Friday. Things are going down over there in Arizona. So Brian Fogg wrote up the record of what's been going on in that family and touched a little bit of what Michael Carbajal had to say here on Leaving the Ring Radio. Area code 559, you're on Leaving the Ring. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cali Loops on Twitter.
Cali Loops, what's up, brother?
Show.
Thank you, man. What's on your mind, brother?
I want to see if you guys caught that fight, that Stevens in-down fight. And, do you think Endon deserves a title shot just because he beat Stevens? Yeah.
Well, I think can we sell it because he won against Stevens? But I mean, even Sam Solomon deserved it. He went to the jaws of Germany. But
that's what they were saying on ESPN yesterday. He's getting a title shot. I'm like, what, already?
I mean, that's just kind of how the ratings work, Yeah, I mean, you kind of come out of nowhere. You get beat by Peter Quillen, and then you come back around and you beat Stevens. It's just the way the rankings work is just. That's why I kind of always laugh at the fantasy rankings. These guys that get, we got mentioned on Friday Night Fights. It's not how the rankings work. There is no right way that they should work. I mean, there is, but that's just never been how it works.
What?
It's not really about earned or deserved in boxing. It's about business relationships, personal relationships. And I literally had a guy pretty high up in the business just last week telling me, and we were just off record, but he was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, this is how it works. I present a fighter that I've, maybe know a guy's developed and he's good. After I've seen him and know he's quality, I'll suggest him to a sanctioning body, and then from there, that person will say, well, what if I sanctioned this fight, and that would give you X ranking, and then maybe in 2 or 3 fights he'd be here and then here. Would that be okay? The guy's like, yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. And everybody's going to get paid along the way, so they okay it. That's how rankings work, not by any sort of merit, really.
Hey, so
it's
far,
kind of shocking.
What do you think is fight of the year so far?
Right now, I think the one that sticks out in my head is the Salcido fight. I think that was a great fight. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of exchanges. I think right now that's the one that really stands out. I know you have a fighter of the year, Gabriel. I remember you telling me already who your fighter of the year. You want to let that cat out of the bag yet?
What? I don't even remember what.
Oh yeah, told me. No. You said you want me to say it? You want me to say who you had told me who's going to be fighter of the year in your opinion?
Yeah.
Oscar De La Hoya.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. He's comeback fighter of the year.
Comeback fighter of the year.
That's
what
it
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad.
Because Oscar. I think if I was still writing or if I was going to write, I would write that piece that he is the comeback fighter of the year because he, by deciding, hey, wait a minute, this is my company, I'm the golden boy. Whatever we want to say about Oscar, and people say all this stuff about his personal life, we don't really get into all that. I deal with the business and people's personal lives and their sex lives, whatever, man. Everybody's a freak at some level. So I don't, it's just the way it is, if you're good at it. But in terms of business, Oscar woke up and took the reins, and he carried this sport on his back for a long time when there wasn't anybody else around. And he took the tough fights when he needed to. He's not like Floyd. He fought Felix Trinidad. He fought Corte. He fought, everybody. So I think him coming back has really changed the sport. It's opened things back up. Him taking everything to HBO or taking, Canelo over to HBO, really smart move. He just seems to have a clear vision, and it's nice to see. So, yeah, he's definitely my comeback fighter of the year.
Well, and he also shows.
I think sport's better when Oscar's doing well.
Hey, I tell you what, it also shows that the way he was in the ring, where he showed no fear, like taking on like Bernard Hopkins, taking on guys that like Fernando Vargas at one time, where a lot of folks that thought that Vargas was just going to mow right through him. He's brought that in his business suave. He's kind of shown that he's not afraid. As soon as Schaefer and Al Haymon were in full view of what they were doing, this wasn't a guy that put his tail between his legs and said, "Oh, well, screw it. These guys are business guys. They're going to swallow me." He put up his hands and said, "Let's go toe to toe. Let's do this." He's not afraid to lose, and that's something that he's really showing. That character of his fighter mentality, is really shining through, in my opinion. So I got to agree with you on the comeback here. And speaking about being freaky in the bedroom, absolutely right, dude. I wear socks during sex still. You know what I mean? That's got to be freaky,
Yeah, everybody tripped out on, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He's wearing the pink chonies. I'm like, dude, sometimes you got to put on a show. You're a little tired, or you can confuse them with the pink chonies to think that you're better than you are. I mean, whatever it takes.
Wasn't pink chonies though, dude. That was Julio trying to do his own laundry, and he put in his soccer red shirt in the washer with his calzones, and they came out pink and stuff. That's just his way of showing that he shouldn't do any laundry, he shouldn't cook for himself. This is a kid with a silver spoon in his mouth his whole time. Anyways, hey brother, Kevin, thanks for calling in, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Hey, speaking about that HBO contract with Canelo, why are they calling that such a historical signing? I mean, is it any better than the Mayweather Showtime CBS? I think they use the word historic. It's like, well, it's not lying because it's the first time it's ever happened that he's gone back to HBO, so it is kind of historic. Okay. It's not like it's just promoter speak. You know what I mean? It's not like UFC. UFC calls everything historic, making history. I'm like, how is this making history? A girl's gonna fight. I don't know. I'm tired of UFC. Out of the year, to answer your question, that's a tough one. There's this fight that I always, forget, and I always put it on. It's on the side, and I haven't watched it. It makes me a terrible boxing writer. But besides that, I mean, you look at Salido versus Koki at Jim.
was a pretty awesome Rumble. Just a while back. Takayama Rodriguez was pretty awesome. Trying to think what else this year. I haven't really picked.
I tell you what. I tell you what. There's another fight of the year for me, but it was a 4-rounder. And I was telling you this. I saw it live. It was in Modesto, California. I tried to talk to the promoter, but the dude just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I asked him. I said, "Hey man, you think I could host it so our listeners can see this?" I mean, this was a real fight. It was back and forth. It wasn't sloppy. Both were good technicians. They were both from Modesto clubs. There was some rivalry between these. No, I'm sorry. It was Modesto. It was a Modesto club and a Stockton club. So there was real rivalry between these two guys. And the crowd, I swear to you, there was almost a riot during the fight. That's how emotionally invested the people were in this fight. I can't remember the kids' names. I'll look it up, man. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, Stockton is no joke. I'm from Fresno, man, and I know about Stockton, man. They love to fight over there.
Oh, yeah, bro. I mean, the Stockton people that were there, I'm telling you, man, there was like, because the guys that were there representing Modesto were from Paradise, which, if you know Modesto, Paradise is like a miniature Stockton. It's a bunch of hoods. A lot of roughnecks come out of there, and then you had Stockton. But there was real rivalry between these guys, and these two dudes went in there, and I got to tell you, they represented their city. They went in there and they left everything in that ring. It was the 4 best rounder out of the year, in my opinion. But I can't show
find the name so I could YouTube it. I need to YouTube that one.
I will. You know what? I'll post it up. I'll say the name. I got to look for it. I got it written down, man. I'll throw it out there tonight. I know I have it on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I have a picture of it, and I did mention that it was the best 4-rounder I ever witnessed for this year.
Your Instagram.
Leave it in the ring. Leave it in the ring. Right. It's the same thing like my Twitter. Leave it in the ring. It's LIITRBOXING. All right, brother. Thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Peace. Thanks.
That was a great fight, man. And it sucked that the promoter was like, let me think about it. I was like, what is there to think about, dude? You're not a known promoter. They're called New World Promotions.
Everybody in this business is just like, maybe I can
don't
take
know.
it and do something for myself with it.
And I even told the dude, I was like, look, I'm doing you a big favor. You're not doing anything for me. I just wanted to show that it was a great fight. It was a great night of fights, to tell you the truth. That it was held in Modesto. Great night of fights. And everybody walked away really feeling like this was fantastic. If you could do this all over again, all four fights on those cards were great. They was plenty of action, but that one fight there was the one that stood out. There was so much action. It was really fun to watch. And guess the world's not gonna be able to see it. Too bad. Anyways,
fight schedule?
Yeah, let's go with that fight schedule.